Like, you seem to have like a very wide one thing I've always liked your content is that you've never really focused on one thing. You've always had like a wide like I don't even know what your tastes are. Like, sometimes I try to like narrow down your tastes, and I look at like some of the stuff that, you know, John does this like kind of series where you like things I've liked in summer or winter, and I'm like, this has no fucking correlation at all.
It's the most random assortment of shit.
Yeah. Do you have a certain like taste or interest that you can boil it down to, or is it just kind of like
no? Not like I like art, man. You know, I like things that I think are interesting, but I like being that way as well. You know, because like I do feel like there is correlations between things. Like, I've learned a lot about storytelling through like professional wrestling. You know, I've learned a lot about like, I guess, how to structure things from martial arts, and you can take a lot of different things from a lot of different things. But I think it's one of the ways my channel is kind of weird, and it's one of the ways that I should probably never have survived on YouTube. You know what I mean? But somehow
I don't agree with that. I think people just like having a consistent voice that they can come back to.
Sure,
hear like a delivery on something. It doesn't always have to be the same thing. I think people just like having someone inform them, because I like just learning about stuff that I do not care about.
Yeah, and I think there's as well, like with your channel, there's always that like element of surprise of like, okay, what's
I would never watch a 1 hour video on Garfield from anyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what's the next topic going to be? And then when they see something that they just weren't expecting, well, they're like, well, I mean, John made it and it's fucking 2 hours long. It must be interesting, right? And that's how people get hooked, you know?
Yeah, we had this conversation a few weeks ago on the podcast about martial arts movies, so I thought I'd ask you about this. So, like, I feel that there were, like, way more kind of, like, the prestige of, like, especially Hong Kong martial arts film existed back in the day, and I feel like they've kind of fallen off. And we had this theory that UFC kind of maybe ruined the mystique of like martial arts. Do you think there's like credit to that?
I would say there's definitely an element to that. Like, I think UFC, and it was really interesting because professional wrestling had to deal with this problem as well. Because like, oh, that's what a fight actually looks like, and it's not beautiful and it's not pretty, and 80% of it is two sweaty guys rolling. You know, and so like, I absolutely think there's something to that. But I also would say in that there is the capacity for martial arts movies to become the next thing, and they haven't yet.
Right.
But like, I do think you see it peek through with stuff like The Raid or John Wick 4 was a fucking incredible movie.
Sure,
you know,
it was.
Gung Fu, they call it. Gun Fu.
Gun Kata.
Oh, was that Equilibrium?
Yeah, Equilibrium. That was a great film
that was
as well.
Fun. That was really fun.
How do you feel like martial art film could evolve into like the modern era? Because I think it's not just UFC. Like, sometimes I just get recommended of like, you know, videos where it's just like martial artist tries to defend against like a knife attack, and like showing like the reality of how many times they would actually get hit, and then you realize there are just some things that you just can't defend against.
So like, in a weird way, I think that actually like social media has become a huge part of martial arts, because you get like a lot of amateur fighters now who have like, you know, they're posting their TikToks and their daily routines and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to see a movie kind of based around that, but like it's a weird one as well. I also think like with all the shit that's happening with like influencer boxing, that has kind of become the narrative of modern martial arts. You know?
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, okay, we've done enough influence boxing. I want to see more influencer wrestling now. That
I think influencer wrestling is very hard. I think wrestling is just super technical.
I mean, it is.
Even just trying it for like 1 hour, it was like try not to hurt yourself challenge.
Like,
hard
you do your first back bump and you're like, this is what these guys go through.
They told me it was soft for them, and I was like, this is not soft. I winded myself when I fell, and I was like,
but
fuck.
you would know that it would just be a treasure trove of memes, just like fun, like Mr. Beast coming in with the people's elbow. It's like, that should be so gold.
Yeah. What goes, like, you've done wrestling training before. What goes into that?
So like, it is, you are working with another person doing all these like high impact moves, but the thing that like scared me was the idea I didn't want to fuck up and hurt the other person.
Right.
You know, that to me became way scarier than fighting another person, you
Right.
know, because I was like, oh fuck, like I don't want to be responsible for this person's injury. But it's like it's a lot of stuff. Like when people get up, it's like you always grab the person's left hand, so you have to be very conscious of like when I get up, my left hand has to be here, and I have to be like telegraphing this so they know to do that. I never got far enough with it to like speak on it with any kind of authority, so I don't want to. But yeah, like it's like Connor was saying, it's this massively technical thing.
Right. Because I've noticed, I've seen some of your posts, and you've done some wrestling events, right? Or when you
Yes.
come to England for
Yeah,
some
yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
events.
You got like some like evil persona or
Yeah,
something?
right, yeah. What's
Bestington, right?
Leslie Bestington, yeah. I work with a company called Coliseum Wrestling, and it's fun, dude. Like it is.
You look like
so
you're having the time of your fucking life.
I really am.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like you can like actually getting to piss off the crowd, especially kids, because kids can't, they like, you know the way kids have that thing where they can't tell what's real and what
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah.
You can piss them off so much, and they will look at you with the purest hatred you've ever seen. But like I go up to their parents and I'll be like, I'm gonna have to ask you to calm your child down. You know, it's like everyone's. But it's so fun as well, because like I got to do a meet and greet the last time, and so I was like, okay, what would Leslie Bestington do for a meet and greet? So I wrote autographs, £400, and I just put it there. And so like these kids came up to the table, and like I was like, okay, what's your name? What's your name? And I signed 3 autographs, and then I looked at the dad, and I was like, £1,200, please. And like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what is the character that you play? Just kind of like...
So if you've seen my influencer video, it's the guy I do at the start of that, Leslie Bestington.
yeah.
Social media icon.
Yeah, and his whole thing is that he doesn't understand professional wrestling. He thinks it's silly. So the first time I ever did it, I basically came out and I was like, I don't really get wrestling. I'm more a boxing man myself, and I respect all the greats. Jake Paul, Logan, and the crowd melted down. They got so mad, and I was like, I got him.
I got him.
Oh man, look at that. Oh,
That's so sick.
That looks so fun.
How many followers do you people have? Let me guess. 6.
This is me guessing their followers.
4. 1. Definitely 1. Definitely 1.
What have you done, buddy? You did what you always do. Nothing.
That's so dope.
Oh, that's great.
It's fun.
Did this come from like, how did this start? Did this come from like the social media video, or did you...
Yeah, I just done that, and they got in contact with me and were like, "Do you want to do something?"
That's
and I
so
was
cool.
like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I do."
I would
And
love
so-
to.
Yeah,
That's so cool. Fuck,
yeah.
man. It's so interesting when you see YouTubers kind of just go into a whole nother realm. But obviously you have history in it. But it's kind of cool seeing it and seeing you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun. It's definitely interesting going into like a wrestling locker room, and you kind of think you're in shape until like you go in and you're like, oh, I'm like a little boy.
Yes, they are very fucking good.
Oh, they
Because you
really
guys
are.
have done some wrestling videos as well, right?
I did a video with Takeshita, who's like insane now. He's
Oh
like
yeah,
killing it.
yeah. He's done so well.
It's so funny because when I met up with him, he was just casually telling me about how he was going to go to America for a few months, and I was like, oh, cool. I didn't think anything of it, but he was so funny and so good on camera when I was working with him. And then shortly after, I just occasionally every now and then I'll get tweets being like, yeah, Takeshi's crushing it.
Yeah. Like he's not quite main event level yet, but he's like getting there.
It's
like,
crazy,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Your video was a little more interesting than my experience, because I did it for Aki's video where
You
she
just
went
got beat up, right?
Yeah, I
I mean,
put
they beat
on
me up too.
I put on a luchador mask, and Lady Beard clotheslined me, and that was not fun.
Yeah, I have said this so many times, but I didn't understand that they actually hit each other, and so that when they
Yeah.
slapped me with the chop,
Oh my
which a chop is
God.
just like slapping someone's chest.
Yeah.
Slap it. It's a bit different, but they're hitting your chest, and they do it for real. And I didn't realize this because in American ones they do this, but in Japan they love doing this.
So in Japan,
DDT,
they have a thing called strong style, which
Yeah.
just means we're going to
they
actually,
actually
beat the
just beat
shit
each
out of
other
each other.
up. And for the video, I really wanted to, even though I have like a blood condition, I was like, I won't tell them that. Because I didn't want them to worry, and I knew I'd be fine. I was like, I actually wanted to get in. I wanted them to like kind of just do it on me, because I was like, well, fuck it, I should try and
Good
do this.
experience.
I also feel like if you're gonna fucking do a video somewhere, you should fucking get involved. Like you
Yeah,
should actually like
for
try
sure.
and do it for as much as you can.
So when I used to train in wrestling, I like got in trouble because one of the people there, she was like a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And we were doing like the chop circle,
Yeah.
which just means like you have to chop the person next to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, because like she was tiny and she was
Yeah.
like, do it. And I was like, and like I couldn't do it. And then the like my trainer pulled me aside and he was like, listen, mate, you have to do it, you know. It's like, and like
to her, right?
yeah, exactly. And like afterwards I apologized to her, but like it was kind of shitty of me because she's there because she's cool with that,
Yeah.
because she
Yeah,
wants to do it.
yeah.
But I think it was just years of social conditioning where
Yeah, of
it's
course,
like,
of course.
I have to hit a woman.
but yeah, it was
God
just,
damn.
Fuck yeah, when they hit me, my god, it's like that scene from One Punch Man where Saitama, Geno sees Saitama punching him. And he like the giant. I felt that.
yeah.
I felt death.
Yeah.
because he hit me and I was winded and I was like, holy shit. And he's like, okay, now I'm gonna do it 3 more times in a row. And I was like, what? Next day, my chest was all purple.
Yeah.
Oh,
And yeah, they fucked me up. It was really bad.
Yeah.
what a
That's
still.
such a good still.
Such a good still.
They had me jump on this thing and it was fine, but it was when they made me jump. Like, it wasn't even jumping. It's literally just falling on your
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
Right.
and it still really fucking hurt. But bless them, they were so good, and they really like had me. Like that was terrible.
Oh.
Well, it was I tried my best. But they really fucking put me to work. It was really fun. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, as
Hell yeah.
someone who only knows wrestling through your videos, what's like the difference between like different countries and different leagues of wrestling?
Oh, I mean, like, there's a lot of different types. American tends to be like, well, now you have like WWE and AEW, and like, but it tends to be like a little more showy, a little more like thinking about people who aren't into wrestling. Like, a lot of the times WWE will try and keep its matches quite kind of short and snappy. AEW is a bit more for hardcore wrestling. Japanese wrestling is like, tends to be. There's not a lot of like gimmicks or like storylines in Japanese wrestling other than these two men want to be better than each other. And it's kind of been that for like there is exceptions to that, but it's like that is actually to me the most compelling wrestling just because
That's
like
just Baki, isn't it?
they it is it legit is.
How long is because how long is a normal wrestling match then for like WWE and AEW? What's like average?
I'd
like,
say anywhere between 7 and 15 minutes.
See, I was watching a 15-minute fight and I felt like that was very long. I felt like that was just like.
So what I'd say, it's like an episode like of anything.
Yeah.
If it's good, it'll fly by.
True.
Right. What do you recommend to get someone into wrestling then? Where do you recommend someone would start?
Watch my videos. So like I actually hate saying that, but my answer is like watch my videos, and if you see a wrestler you like in those videos, go track down more of their matches and watch their stuff, because like wrestling at the end of the day, it's a story about characters, and it's a story about like their long-term journey over many years and how that like combines with their real life, and that's genuinely the advice I give.
Yeah, because one thing I found interesting that you mentioned was like the kind of like the separation of when someone's playing a character and when someone is like how do you balance like the character you're playing and the person that the wrestler actually is, which is a really interesting part of the culture of that, where would you say that wrestling is on the same level as a fictional story, or does part of the appeal come from not knowing where the separation is?
I mean, like, if you're really into wrestling, the people
Right.
who really, really love it, you are paying attention to the fiction and the reality.
Right.
But the problem, like, what's so interesting about it is, like, where one starts with it, you can never fucking tell.
Right.
You know, and, like, you have people who think, like, everything's a work, we're being set up, you know? But then it's like, no, I think this dude actually just sucks, you know? So, like, but, like, that's what's kind of fascinating about it, you know?
Yeah. Did you, since you have been into wrestling for a long time, did you ever have like, in school or something where it's just like, oh, wrestling's fake? No, it's fake.
I remember like going on a walk with my dad, and being like, "Dad, is wrestling fake?" And he just goes, "It is, John, yeah." And I remember just pausing and going, No, I don't think it is.
Your brain just like emergency shuts down. It's like, I will not accept this.
I think that's why, because I used to be into it when I was a kid, and I think that's when I kind of realized it was fake. I kind of felt like betrayed almost as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I was so into it.
It's like finding out Santa's not real.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. It's kind of the
I think
same.
it's worse.
Yeah,
you know?
and because it felt so real, and then I realized as I got older now, I've only really come to appreciate this in the past year or two, is that no, it's, I mean, from the physical aspect alone, it's so impressive, and the feats that they're pulling off.
But like, here's
and then
like
the stories as well.
layers of it, right? It's like, okay, you're little and you're watching it, and it's like, okay, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart hate each other and they're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And then you learn it's not real, and you're like, oh, okay, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are working together to put on what is basically a very painful choreographed dance. Okay.
Yeah.
But then you get to layer 3, and it's like, no, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart do hate each other, and they have to work together to put on this choreographed dance. That is wrestling. You know, like, that's what's fucking interesting about it. Like, I'm not gonna get into it. Look up the Montreal Screwjob. Most insane thing to ever happen. Crazy.
Well, now I want to know. You got to tell me about it.
Okay, give us the elevator pitch.
TLDR.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm sorry to everyone who likes wrestling who's heard this a million times. Bret Hart is the champion. He's about to leave the company, and he's refusing to lose to Shawn Michaels. He's like, I'm not going to do this because I fucking hate this guy so much. They have to put on this main event show together, and so they arrange the whole match. Bret Hart's going to win, or it's going to be a draw or something, and there's going to be a bit where Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart in his own finishing move, the sharpshooter, and to Bret Hart, he's going to reverse it and tap Shawn Michaels out, and that's going to be the end of the match. However, before that happens, they ring the bell to make it look like Bret Hart tapped out.
Oh, okay.
And you can see he's like, what the fuck? That wasn't how this is meant to go. He spits on the owner of the company. It's this giant like disgrace, and like basically backstage goes insane, and it's just this weird like blending of reality, and like, you know, so there's people who will be like, that was all set up. I don't think it was.
God damn.
That's that.
that's
really
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really fucking
You
interesting.
can hear more about it in my video. Villains of Wrestling. I don't think I even said the right video title.
When you one of the wrestling videos.
It's one of the, you made like 3 now, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.